Great. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this online information session. My name is Paul Compton. I'm one of the Senior Assistant Directors of Admission. I'm also in the Kellogg School of Business, and I'll be graduating next year with my MBA. I'm excited to be able to present to you today. This is a picture of the Rock. I am not standing on campus due to the pandemic, but excited to be able to be here with you. And today I'm presenting with Diana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana. I am a recent graduate of the School of Education and Social Policy. I majored in learning sciences. I'm from Chicago. I'm a senior admissions counselor, which means that I help out prospective students and families in their decision making, hopefully getting them to apply and come to Northwestern. And I also am not on campus, but if I were on campus, I would be at the Lakeville.
It's beautiful there right now. So over the next 40 minutes or so, we're going to talk about three main areas. We're going to talk about academics, what it's like at Northwestern, what you can expect, along with the different programs that we offer. We'll talk a little bit about culture and community, and then we'll wrap up with the admissions and the financial aid piece. And along the way, we'll be collecting questions. So if you have questions you'd like us to answer at the end of the presentation, we'll spend some time doing that as well. I think what's important to know is that through this, feel free to ask any questions in the chat box, and then we'll get to them later. But as we're going along, I think it's important to know that Northwestern, even though we're not on campus right now, Northwestern is a truly global community and offers a lot of opportunities for students to be connected to other students and other faculty and staff members from all across the globe. When we talk about diversity, we don't just talk about geographic diversity, but we're really interested in knowing and bringing together people from all different experiences, whether that's academic interests, religious identities, ethnic backgrounds, nationality, different activities that people are interested in. All of that diversity of experiences comes as part of the community at Northwestern, and that's something that we really think is a foundation for the community at Northwestern. So we do have people from all 50 states as well as over 75 different countries that are coming to be a part of the Northwestern community. But what's important to know is that for your academics, that there's three main groups, regardless of what you're going to be studying. There's three main groups of classes that you'll be taking during your time at Northwestern. All Northwestern students are involved in small discussion-based classrooms. You're also going to be taking liberal arts classes. You're going to be taking classes in your major, and then you're also going to have electives. When we are going through, when you're doing classes in your major, it's important to know that when you apply to Northwestern, we do have 6 different schools that you can apply through. The College of Arts and Sciences is where about 50% of our students are going into, and then we also have 5 other specialty schools. So we have the School of Communication, the School of Music, the School of Education and Social Policy, School of Engineering, and the School of Journalism. Within each of those 6 different schools is where one of your majors will be. You'll take a lot of classes in there, regardless of which school you're in. You're going to have the opportunity to take liberal arts classes across a couple of different academic programs. And as well, you'll be able to have electives as well. So the electives are really a key part of the academic experience that allows students to be able to explore across the 6 different schools. Maybe you want to start in one school and you think, you know what, this isn't the best thing for me right now. You can take majors across the 6 different schools. You can explore, you can come in undecided and maybe decide your major later. So those electives are a really key piece of allowing students at Northwestern to have a lot of flexibility, but also to have a lot of variety in the academic programs that they pursue. So each student kind of uses those 3 groups of classes in their own way to kind of make their own time at Northwestern fit their own academic interests. So it's really quite an open system. Diana, do you want to talk a little bit about how those different classes have, or how those different groups of classes have worked together for your time?
Yeah, totally. So like Paul was saying, the classes at Northwestern are very open and very kind of interdisciplinary, and that's especially helpful if you come into Northwestern either knowing what you want to study or if you don't know what you want to study. So if you have always known what you wanted to study since you were a little kid, Northwestern is the place for you because we do offer such centralized courses and such awesome advisors and faculty for the courses that you decide to take. Now, if you don't know what you want to study yet and are kind of like undecided and on like the path for discovery, Northwestern is also a very valuable resource for students like that. I didn't know what I wanted to study when I came into Northwestern, so I knew I liked people and I knew I liked having analytical skills and working on that. And so I came into Northwestern as a math major, but then I quickly found out that that was not the path for me. I am not a STEM person. So then with that interdisciplinary approach, I was able to take courses in other schools, to take courses in different majors and in different departments. And that was really beneficial for me because I got to explore different things that I didn't even know existed. So I mentioned that I graduated from the School of Education and Social Policy, and my major is learning sciences. So when I went into Northwestern, I had no idea what learning sciences was. I didn't even know that that could be a path that I would take and that would really fit all of my educational needs and for my like career path. So I was able to do that kind of switch from being a math major and then to being an economics major, which I didn't like either, to being a learning sciences student in the School of Education and Social Policy. And that was made a lot easier by, again, the interdisciplinary approach of the courses that we take at Northwestern, the distribution requirements, where essentially you take classes in different departments to get kind of that well-rounded liberal arts curriculum during your Northwestern experience, and through the wonderful faculty and staff that we have at Northwestern. So at Northwestern, 80% of all of our courses have less than 20 students, meaning that we have about an 8-to-1 student an 8-to-1 faculty to student ratio, meaning that not only will you build close relationships with your peers in your classes, but you'll also build close relationships with the faculty at Northwestern. So, sorry, one second. Right. So all of the faculty and professors at Northwestern are required to have office hours. So basically that means that all of the classes that you take, you will have access to supplemental time, either with the professor or with the teaching assistants at that class. So essentially, what that means is that you can have all of the resources that you need to succeed in whatever class. And one of the greatest things about my experience at Northwestern is that all of my professors that I've had, and all of my friends can say the same, they genuinely care about your learning. And that's something that you would expect to have at an educational institution. But Northwestern really takes it to the next level because professors really care about what you're doing, what your aspirations are, why you're taking the class that you're in. So it's really a valuable connection to have, as well as for building connections in case you want to do research down the line, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But the relationships that you build with the faculty and with the other students in your courses are really a part of what builds the foundation of why Northwestern is so great and why Northwestern feels like home and not just a school. And something that this especially makes easier is the quarter system. And I'll let Paul talk a little bit more about the quarter system.
Great, thanks. So yeah, for the quarter system is how we structure our classes at Northwestern. When you're thinking about going to college or university, it can be a little bit overwhelming with how many different classes are available at Northwestern. We have over 4,700 different classes for you to choose from. I mentioned that we have those 6 different schools where all of the majors and the classes are structured. But what's important is that across all of those different courses, it really gives you a strong variety of classes to be able to choose from. As well, it also allows you the opportunity to maybe choose your program, maybe explore a class just for one time because you're interested in it. It's really a nice way to be able to kind of structure your program. How the quarter system works is that the quarter system typically does mean 4 different academic terms, but what we do is that we only have you take classes during 3 out of those 4 academic terms. So you'll be taking classes in the fall, the winter, and the spring, and those will be each about 10 weeks long as an academic term. And the typical course load during that academic term is about 4 courses a time. So over the course of a year, you're actually going to be taking a bit more classes than you would on the semester-based system. But what the quarter system offers is the chance to be able to explore across a lot of different academic areas, to be able to dive deep into one particular area, or maybe just to explore and kind of learn some things, or take a class that you are interested in just because it's something that you want to take for fun. One of the classes that's quite popular at Northwestern is called Building Loving and Lasting Relationships, or Marriage 101. This is not a class that you will see at a lot of other colleges or universities, and it's a little bit unique in its structure, but this is something that students don't necessarily come to Northwestern saying, I'm going to take Marriage 101 as like the foundation of my time at Northwestern, but you actually go through this class with a partner, talking about relationship dynamics, going through all the parts of a relationship. And so whether you're in the engineering school, the education school, that can be something that represents a class that we want students to be able to take if they are interested in that. And even though it doesn't necessarily line up with one particular major, it can be a really nice way to kind of round out who you are. We're not just interested in taking classes just to fulfill major requirements, but we're interested in kind of you being able to explore across all of the different academic opportunities that we have. So that's a little bit of how we structure our academics within the classroom. At a place like Northwestern, it's also important to know that across the different majors that we have majors, minors, and certificates as academic programs that are available to you. So majors is where you're going to be spending most of your time. Minors are between 6 and 9 classes to be able to choose from. And then our certificate programs are the smallest program, typically between 4 and 5 classes that you would take to kind of get a taste of one particular academic subject. As I mentioned before, the majors are structured across the 6 different schools. So you would choose a school and then you would have your academic programs within that. It is also important to know that you can do majors across the 6 different schools. We do also have a couple special programs that are interesting. We have a dual degree program. So I mentioned before that the School of Music is one of our 6 different schools. That is one of the schools that does require an audition. But for students that are really interested in music or say engineering, you can do a double major across the 2 different programs, but you can also do a dual degree program. So what that would involve is typically a 5th year of classes. But then with that, you would be taking all of the electives, liberal arts classes, and the major classes from both of the 6 schools. So it really allows you, if you're interested in doing everything for the degree requirements, it does allow you that chance to kind of dive deep into both of those areas. So that's one of our special programs. We do also have an accelerated medical program where students would spend 3 years at undergrad and then be able to go into medical school afterwards. So there's a lot of different ways that we structure our classes and the programs to really suit the needs, the academic needs that students are bringing to Northwestern. But it doesn't just end in the classroom. I think the resources and opportunities for a world-class organization like Northwestern is really important to know that you're not just going to be segmented into your particular major. You're not going to be segmented just into the classroom, but there's really a lot of opportunities to learn from each other, to learn from other academic experiences outside the classroom. One of my favorite things to talk about is called the San Francisco space. And this is for students in our journalism program, as well as our engineering program, that are able to go from Evanston to San Francisco. Typically this happens in the winter quarter, which is also maybe the best quarter to be from Illinois and to be in California. And you take classes on the intersection between media and technology. So by bringing together people from 2 different academic perspectives and 2 different academic backgrounds, you're able to really challenge each other's assumptions and to kind of make a hybrid understanding of how those forces interact. And probably no better place in the world to do that than in San Francisco, where media and technology are changing the way that all of us interact with each other and the way that we all live. So that's one opportunity that we have, even though it's not specifically on campus, many different research opportunities as well as different spaces for students to collaborate together. We have our own kind of entrepreneurial incubator on campus called The Garage, where students are able to work on projects, launch startups together. And that doesn't necessarily just happen with all the economics majors working together or all the engineering majors working together. It really is a chance for you to be able to come together and to be able to launch specific ideas and maybe start a startup. One thing that's been really successful from Northwestern is a program called Brew Bike. It started at Northwestern with a couple students working together to be able to launch their own student run coffee shop. And it's been so successful that it's actually been able to go through other different campuses. So lots of opportunities if you have that energy and you wanted to be able to do that. It can be a really, really nice way for students to get connected and to be able to launch some of their ideas at Northwestern. So those are a few of the centers and kind of opportunities we have. We also have a lot of resources for undergraduate research. So I'm going to let Diana talk a little bit about some of those opportunities and what that looks like at Northwestern.
Thank you, Paul. So I really love talking about undergraduate research. It's been one of my favorite parts about my experience at Northwestern. And so one of the biggest things that support students in their undergraduate research careers is that Northwestern allocates $3.5 million every year just to undergraduate research. So not only does that mean you have a ton of funding and a lot of different opportunities, but it also means that you can be an active participant in your research and kind of actively seek out the topics that you're passionate about. And one of those ways can be through if you're taking a class and you really like what the professor is teaching and the professor like tells you a little bit about their research. Most of the professors at Northwestern are doing research or are a part of a research lab. And it's really easy. And again, I'm going to talk about the accessibility of the faculty at Northwestern because it really is something that is all around you and something that you can really take advantage of. But most of the professors at Northwestern are very, very approachable. And at least for me, it's been easy to go up to professors and be like, hey, I really like this class this quarter. I'd like to learn more about what you're doing. And that's actually how I got my research position in a learning and interacting with media and education lab. So I worked with that lab my sophomore and junior and senior year. And it was really a great way for me to dip my foot into the world of academia and really open up experiences for what I wanted to do after graduation. So along with the funding that you receive from Northwestern, doing research in your professors' labs and having your professors as your advisors really, again, helps you build those close relationships and helps you build connections to people outside of kind of your professor and student relationship into other people who are doing awesome research. This also means that your research can look like anything you want it to. So I mentioned that I did research in a lab with learning and media and education. And really, that was kind of the best thing for me because I mentioned that I was a math major and I didn't end up working out for me. So my research does not look like what a typical research position would look like with a lab coat, with goggles, with being in an actual lab with like live things. That sort of thing personally scares me. So it's really awesome that I got the opportunity to do research in a space where I was doing what I liked and I was doing what was interesting to me. And not going kind of into like my danger zone where I felt like I was intimidated every day being in the lab. But of course, there are students who do enjoy that kind of hard science in doing research. So my friend Alice was actually a research assistant for the Feinberg School of Medicine, which is our graduate school of medicine. And she was doing research in a lab. She would go down to our Chicago campus every day. And we'll talk about transportation a little bit later. But she studied the effects of stress on depressed mice. So again, that's something I had never heard of, something that a lot of people have probably never heard of. So it's just to show that your research can look like anything that you want it to look like, and it can intersect in a lot of different ways because the professors and the faculty at Northwestern are so innovative and they always want to keep pushing the box. So finding something that fits your interest is again very easy. So we have this really awesome office called the Office of Undergraduate Research, and they provide a lot of wonderful funding, advice, experiences, ideas for you to do research during your undergraduate career. We have a URG, which is an undergraduate research grant, which is funded by the Office of Undergraduate Research. And this allows students to pursue their research full time during an off quarter. So whether that be in the summer, most typically, and it allows them to kind of fund the research, work with professors that they want, stay in Evanston to really focus on just the research that they are passionate about without having to worry about the financial implications about kind of living on your own and not having like a paid job during the summer. And so this kind of helps me transition into some experiences that students take where they take their research abroad. So international experiences are something that is very, very common at Northwestern and something that really shapes a student's undergraduate experience. So there are a lot of ways to have a global learning experience at Northwestern, including and beyond the traditional study abroad. So when you think of traditional study abroad, we have a lot of affiliated programs. We have over 150 affiliated programs across the globe. And that can look like what you think study abroad is. So you go to a different country, you kind of immerse yourself in the culture, you take classes at a local university, and you really just experience that learning outside of the Evanston campus at Northwestern. And one of the really great things about study abroad at Northwestern is that we like to say that your financial aid travels with you. So essentially what this means is that if you receive financial aid as a student at Northwestern, that financial aid will also apply to your study abroad experience, because Northwestern does not want the financial implications of going to another country and living there for a number of weeks or months to be a barrier to that learning experience. The student really goes to another space to really immerse themselves in the culture again. And sometimes people even go back to the place that they study abroad. My friend Ella studied abroad in New Zealand during the summer. And then she decided that she loved it so much that she studied abroad again in New Zealand that following fall. So she really spent like 20 weeks in New Zealand, really immersing herself in the culture, and even went back to visit the summer after, just because she loved it so much. She built such close relationships with the people in New Zealand that she met with, that she lived with. So that really is something that shapes a student's experience at Northwestern, just outside of the traditional learning experience that you think about sitting in a classroom. Global experiences beyond that traditional go to class type thing, you can do service learning. So my older sister also attended Northwestern. She studied abroad in Bolivia during her time at Northwestern, and she did a service learning project / research project. So she built solar powered ovens, I don't know, something engineering. And she lived with a family in Bolivia. She had a host family. She completely immersed herself in the culture. And she did this thing with a NGO, a non-governmental organization. So kind of like a local nonprofit that allowed people to really give back to the community that they were living in. Students will also do internships abroad. So as long as you find a place that you love, Northwestern will work with you to kind of have that experience that you want to have, and give you that global learning experience that we find so valuable to a student's learning. So internships abroad, that can look like anything you want it to. So we have a summer internship research grant, which applies mostly to internships that you take domestically. But internships abroad are facilitated with the Office of International Experiences, and also with our NCA, which is our Northwestern Career Advancement Office. So NCA is a really awesome resource that we have at Northwestern. And essentially what they do is they prepare you for the life that you are going to have after your Northwestern experience, or during your Northwestern experience as well. So this office provides mock interviews. They can provide financial assistance with interview attire. They look at your resume, and one of the biggest things that they do is we do biannual career fairs. So employers want to attract Northwestern students to their companies. So the biennial career fairs are companies that come to Northwestern specifically to recruit our students, because they know the value of our liberal arts curriculum and our ability to excel in academics, but also have really good communication skills. And so Northwestern is a place to grow intellectually and advance your career. And internships are kind of more like applied learning opportunities. So over 70% of the class of 2016 reported having at least one internship as an undergraduate student. So it is very common for students to have internships during their time here. One of the greatest things about NCA is that they provide the summer internship grant program. So the summer internship grant program opens up a lot of doors. So students can take on unpaid internships and not have to worry about the financial implications of living on your own, of transportation, of groceries during the time that you're interning at either a nonprofit or a place that doesn't pay the students for the internship. So if anyone's familiar with the show Making a Murderer, my friend Rose was an intern with one of the lead attorneys on that case. That show was so scary, but so she was an intern with one of the lead attorneys on that case, and she was able to take that internship because of the summer internship grant program, which allowed her to, again, take that unpaid internship, have this awesome experience with a very high profile attorney, and still not have to worry about how she was going to get down to Chicago from Evanston every day, and things like that. Opportunities are built into the curriculum at Northwestern in a lot of cases. So I, in the School of Education and Social Policy, had to do a practicum. So a practicum is a required out-of-school learning experience where a student takes a quarter off of regular classes, and an internship experience is built into your curriculum. So I did my internship at the Field Museum the winter of my junior year. And that was a really awesome experience because I got to experience kind of the actual industry and apply my learning to a real world experience, and then come back on Fridays and have a class at Northwestern about what I was learning and talk about other people who were doing their practicum the same quarter. The Medill School of Journalism has a similar program called your journalism residency, where you take a quarter off of regular classes and you go, you stay in Chicago, you can go to Washington, DC, you can go to San Francisco, all to pursue journalism outside of the classroom and in the real world. There's also Chicago Field Studies, which is more of a optional program, but it does allow students to take a quarter off and take courses in Chicago and really explore all the awesome opportunities that Chicago has to offer after your Northwestern experience. So again, NCA is a really awesome resource for this. They provide matching. They have a lot of connections with people who are already in industry. And one of the things that really helps students find awesome internships, like internships at Apple, internships at 3M, Visa, Facebook, Under Armour, really awesome companies like this, is our connection to people who already work there. And the people who already work there, more chances are somebody who works at these awesome companies went to Northwestern. So Paul is going to talk a little bit more about the Alumni Network, but it is super, super prominent that students will reach out to alumni, and that relationship is very, very strong and very beneficial in finding opportunities outside of the classroom.
Thanks, Diana. Yeah, talking about our alumni is one of my favorite parts. It's a fantastic opportunity that the resources and the connections that you make at Northwestern don't just stop when you graduate, but that really you're able to continue those things on afterwards. There's usually a story that I talk about is that I've worn a Northwestern backpack and a Northwestern sweatshirt a lot of places, not thinking that it's going to start a conversation. But if you wear a Northwestern sweatshirt in like a train station or an airport, people are going to talk to you. People have a lot of thoughts about Northwestern and they're really excited when they know that someone is associated with that. So that same energy and desire to connect with students is also translated not only in just asking questions of alumni of how did you do what you're able to do now, but also being able just to have those formal connections like Diana was talking about of what that looks like to help really get students started in the path that they're interested in. Northwestern alum have done some incredible things. They've gone on to impact society all throughout the globe in many different areas, whether that's being the mayor of the city of Chicago. We have Fortune 500 CEOs that are affiliated with Northwestern, late night TV show hosts, pro athletes, tons of different people that have come through Northwestern. And it's really great to have those high profile people as part of our alumni network. But it's also good to think about what are some of the people that have just recently graduated. What are they doing and what sorts of opportunities are also presented to them? Not just thinking about what am I going to be able to do in maybe 10, 15, 20 years. So for some of those young alum, it's great to be able to see them being in graduate programs in medical school or a PhD program, or maybe working on starting their own startups or doing their own research that really is tied to something that they were able to study at Northwestern, and having that alumni network of people that can support them, whether that's being professional mentors, whether that's being a social network in a new city if you go to live in a new city after graduating. All of those are extremely helpful resources. And just the name and reputation that follows Northwestern is something that will live with you throughout the rest of your time during after you have graduated from Northwestern. So we've kind of talked about academics in terms of coming, selecting your major, all the classes that you can take, along with the resources and opportunities that expand beyond the classroom, and really what that means to join our alumni network afterwards. So we're going to focus a little bit more on what it's actually like to be a student at Northwestern. So I'm going to pass it back to Diana to talk a little bit about the community, what the culture is like at Northwestern, and to talk about some of those things that make our campus in Evanston such a great place.
Thank you. I love talking about the community at Northwestern. It's been my absolute favorite part of being a Northwestern student. And now that I've graduated, I've had a lot of time to do some reflecting on what it is that really made my Northwestern experience so special and so valuable to me, and really just an awesome part of my life. So when I think about the culture and community at Northwestern, one of the biggest things that I think about is passion and empathy. So the passion that you'll find in Northwestern students is just absolutely amazing. And students will always find something that they love and something that they will love telling you about. So I learned about so many things that I didn't even know existed, and that things are passionate about. One of the coolest things that I learned when I came to Northwestern is that people really love singing. And that is not something that I was familiar with. I cannot sing. And when I got to Northwestern, people were like, yeah, I've been in this choir for so long, or yeah, I just joined this a cappella group and I really, really love it. And so a lot of the things that make Northwestern feel like home can really be anything that you want it to look like. So Northwestern students find their home on campus in a number of different ways. So the first one of those, which happens right when you get to campus, is Wildcat Welcome. So Wildcat Welcome is our 8 to 10 day orientation program for students, for first year students at Northwestern. So whether that be somebody who has taken a gap year, somebody who's transferring from Northwestern, or somebody's taking the more traditional route and going from high school directly to college. So that experience really helps people get acclimated at Northwestern. And the program pairs you with an upperclassman who is in the same academic school as you. And so this person is called your peer advisor. And so that's what they do. They're your peer and they can advise you. So peer advisors not only help you physically find your classes, but also navigate how to register for classes, navigate how to talk to your professor, navigate how to go to office hours, and kind of just give you advice that they have learned throughout their transition to Northwestern. One of the other places that students find community at Northwestern is through the residential experiences. Northwestern has a 2-year required live-on experience. And essentially what this means is that you get to live with your best friends for 2 years. I was the year before this 2-year live-on experience was implemented. And I still love the year that I had living on campus in the residence halls. I was able to build community with people who lived on my floor, who lived on the floor above or below me. And it's kind of really awesome thing to come home after a long day of classes and come down to your friends, which is something that I had an experience before, living at home with my parents and my sisters. But it's something that is really valuable because you do kind of build that social circle and allows you to feel a part of a community at Northwestern. So the first year experience is really something that can encompass a lot of different things. And one of the biggest traditions that first year students experience is March Through the Arch. So March Through the Arch is one of our favorite traditions where students literally march through the Northwestern Arch, kind of commemorating the way that they are entering Northwestern, and this is the home for you. And typically March Through the Arch looks like all 2,000 plus new students to Northwestern march through the arch, and parents and family members are cheering on the side. That might look a little different this year, but it is something that Northwestern students really appreciate, and that really makes you feel a part of our community, and really something that kind of marked my thoughts of being like, wow, I'm here, I'm in college, I've met my people. Other traditions, other significant spaces that students can find their homes in are the Black House, the Gender and Sexuality Resource Center, our Shield Catholic Center, Hillel Jewish Center, and a number of other, the Multicultural Center, and a number of other organizations that students can be a part of relating to their identities. So my friend Nigel was very connected to his spirituality when he before Northwestern in Singapore. And when he came to Northwestern, he was worried about kind of feeling still connected to that identity and managing the full-time school load that he was taking on. And the Significant Space Shield Catholic Center really made him feel like he was home and that he wasn't leaving a part of himself back in Singapore. And it's really a place where students can bond with others through identity and learn about others' identities and how they intersect with each other. So also traditions are a huge thing at Northwestern. My personal favorite tradition is Dillo Day. So Dillo Day is our one-day student-run music festival, and it happens on the Lakeville. So it happens on a sunny day in June, in early June. And so all Northwestern students, we just flock to the Lakeville. And it's a day where an organization called Mayfest brings on big artists. In the past, we've had Charlie XCX, we have had Chance the Rapper, we've had Young Thug, MGMT, just to name a few. And it's just a day where students are not studying. It's kind of a great way to unwind after the school year. And Morty, our president, likes to joke that that's the only day where our libraries are empty because all of the students are outside soaking up the sun and having fun with each other and kind of building that experience. And that's something really awesome because it is so particular to Northwestern. So if you mention Dillo Day to anybody else, they'll be like, what's that? But kind of feeling that sense of community of this being a Northwestern thing really makes you feel a part of a home. Other traditions that students love are Dance Marathon, which is the largest student-run dance marathon in the country. So every year, Dance Marathon raises over $1 million for the organization that is selected as the beneficiary for that year. It's a really awesome experience. Football games. I won't stand here and say that Northwestern is the best football team in the Big Ten, but I will say that we do have one of the most fun games. It's been one of the greatest parts of my Northwestern experience. And I love going to football games, even if I don't understand anything that's happening. So these all really strengthen our sense of community and is still a feeling of being at home. And now that I've graduated, it's something that can make me feel like I'm coming back home during homecoming or like anytime that I choose to visit Northwestern. So I'm very excited for those events to come for me and kind of see them in a different light. But for students who are currently at Northwestern, it really is a place to feel like this is the space for you. And I mentioned Mayfest puts on Dillo Day. So student organizations are a big part of the undergraduate experience and another way that students create community on campus. So student groups kind of broken up into different chunks. So we have athletics. So Northwestern is a school in the Big Ten conference. It's an athletic conference, and we're a D1 athletics school. So athletics are divided into varsity, club sports and intramural sports. So students can really remain engaged in sports if that's something that they were passionate about before Northwestern. And also a really awesome way to build community and just let off some steam. There is also global and cultural engagement. So students will do cultural organizations, such as the Chinese American Student Association, the Korean American Student Association, Alianza, which is our Latinx student organization, and really a way to, again, bond with others through identity. There's also innovation and STEM organizations, arts and publication organizations, community engagement, athletics and recreation. And my favorite organization that I've been a part of is being a peer advisor, which I talked about a little bit earlier. I was a peer advisor for 3 years, and it is really the space where I found my people and the space where I felt like I was home and what made Northwestern home for me. And just to kind of transition off of that, one of the great things that makes Northwestern student organizations thrive is our location. And I will let Paul talk about that.
Yeah, so our location is something that I really love talking about. Diana mentioned that she is from the city of Chicago. I grew up in Southern California, so I was used to being close to the ocean and going to the beach. But one of the great things about Northwestern is that even though we are a Midwest school, we do have access to Lake Michigan. So we are located right on Lake Michigan in Evanston. Evanston is the first town north of the city of Chicago. We are a quick bike ride or a quick jog away from the city limits, or about 45 minutes from the downtown loop section of the city of Chicago. So our location of campus being right on Lake Michigan, part of the collegiate town of Evanston. Evanston is also known as the dining capital of the North Shore. Being close to Evanston is definitely a great thing. There are lots and lots of coffee shops. Almost difficult to walk around campus and walk around Evanston and not see several stores that are advertising different Northwestern apparel or different coffee shops that are available full of students that are studying or just socializing. So it's a really great way to not only have that local town that is supportive of Northwestern, but also to kind of have that connection from campus, just a few minutes walking away, to also be able to have so many different restaurants and coffee shops and stores to really make that feel like home. And then also being connected to the city of Chicago, the third largest city in the US, is a fantastic opportunity, not only for things, well, in the past, things like music festivals, food festivals, all those different things, but also for the cultural opportunities of being able to explore world-class museums, to be able to connect with different neighborhoods and cultural groups all throughout the city of Chicago, as well as just to be able to build your professional and social network. One of the things about attending a college or a university is that you're spending probably 4 years, if not more, at that particular location, and being able to focus on getting connections to the local area, getting connections to those local networks can really be helpful for understanding the opportunities that are available and getting you connected to maybe internship opportunities, research opportunities, or even just connected to mentors that are going to be able to help you throughout that process when you graduate to really equip you for success. And I think that being next to the city of Chicago does offer students a lot of those opportunities and resources. But at the same time, our particular campus is pretty tranquil. We're up in the suburbs and right next to Lake Michigan. So there's something for everyone at our location, which is something that is really, really nice when we're talking about coming to our campus in Evanston. So that's a little bit about our campus. We do have campus tours, virtual campus tours that you can see on our YouTube page as well. So if you haven't had a chance to visit Northwestern, I would definitely recommend those. I'm going to wrap up our time talking about the admissions process and financial aid. Important to know for Northwestern that we have 2 different ways that you can apply to Northwestern, as well as 2 different deadlines that you can apply to. The first thing you'll want to figure out is what sort of application are you going to use? Are you going to use the common application, or are you going to use the coalition application? Both of these are online applications where you're going to be filling out a lot of your central information and then deciding which schools you would like to send your information to. We don't have a preference between the Common App or the Coalition application. So if there's another school that you're interested in applying to that uses just one of those, feel free to apply using that particular app. Once you figured out which application you'd like to use, the next thing we're going to ask you is if you're going to apply early decision or if you're going to apply regular decision. At Northwestern, early decision deadline is November 1st. So you would apply by November 1st, and then you would hear back your decision typically by December 15th. The difference between early and regular decision at Northwestern is that early decision at Northwestern is a binding agreement. So what that means is that if you apply to Northwestern early decision and you are admitted to Northwestern, you are committing to going to Northwestern. So if it's your top choice school, if you're like 102% sure that Northwestern is the place you want to go, early decision could be a good option for you. Students are either admitted, denied, or deferred. If you're deferred, what that means is that we're going to consider you in regular decision. And the deadline for regular decision is in early January. The difference between early and regular is that if you are admitted to Northwestern through regular decision, you can still consider other colleges. You don't necessarily have to come to Northwestern. We hope that you do. But that would be the difference, is that there's no binding agreement for that. Whether you apply with the Common App, the Coalition App, early decision, or regular decision, it's really important that the materials that we're going to ask from you and the materials that we're going to evaluate are going to remain the same. So it's really important to know that since we have students that are applying from all across the globe, one of the first things that we always talk about, and one of the kind of central values that we hold as going through this process, is that we are evaluating students on a holistic we use holistic review. So what that means is all the different materials that you're sending to us are being factored in and considered as part of the application process. And we're going to be considering the context of who you are, what sorts of opportunities and resources were given to you, what sorts of opportunities and resources were available at your particular high school, and really digging into your application to know who you are, what sort of background you have, and how you would fit in at Northwestern. So there's a few different things that we're going to be considering. Obviously, this year looks a little bit different than other years. As students are across the globe, we're all trying to figure out, what does schooling look like in the midst of a global pandemic? What does grading look like? What does this look like if I took some classes in person and some classes online? So we have answered a few of those frequently asked questions about COVID-19 grading. We have also instituted a test optional policy this year. So that's something that we'll drop a link in the chat for you to get more information about. But we are test optional. So if you would like to submit an SAT or an ACT score, you can do that. It will be considered as part of your application. For some reason, you're not able to take the test. This year, we are test optional. If you don't submit a test, it's not going to negatively affect your application. We understand that there's many different factors that are facing people right now, and whether that's the availability of test sites or a whole host of other factors, that's one part of our application process. Another part of the academics that we review are your high school transcripts. So for your high school transcript, I mentioned that we're going to be taking a look at the particular context of your high school. So we're interested not only in the performance and the academic performance of your grades that you've taken, but also interested in learning a little bit about the rigor of the classes that you've taken. So most students that are getting into Northwestern are taking some of the more rigorous classes that are offered at their high school and doing quite well in those classes. It doesn't mean that you have to take every AP or IB or honors class or only the most difficult classes, but we are looking for students to challenge themselves and to do well in those classes as a way for us to kind of understand your academic preparation for a place like Northwestern. In addition to testing and the high school transcript, we are going to ask you for two different essays. One is a personal essay. You have a couple different prompts to choose from on the Common App and the Coalition application. And the second essay is about why you would like to attend Northwestern. A lot of the things that you're providing in the application give us some sort of understanding of who you are as a person, what sort of things are you passionate about, what sorts of things might you be involved in. But the Why Northwestern essay is really your chance to be able to say, of all the colleges and universities that are out there, why particularly am I interested in going to Northwestern, and what do I know about this particular school? So that can be a really helpful way for us to kind of know how interested you are in the school and for you to be able to kind of share that information with us. In addition, we ask for a letter of recommendation from a counselor and one letter of recommendation from an academic teacher. You are welcome to submit additional letters of recommendation, but I will caution you, we do read all of the letters of recommendation, so please, please, please don't feel like you have to submit more letters of recommendation. One or two is totally, totally fine. Focus on the quality of those letters versus the quantity. If we have one teacher that can really talk about you and say, you know what, they showed academic strength, they showed a lot of growth in this class, that can be much more helpful than 4 or 5 recommendation letters that are all saying roughly the same thing, that, you know, Paul was an okay math student. If you get that 4 or 5 times, that's pretty much the same as one of them. But maybe there's one teacher that you can talk to that can write a recommendation letter for you that can really highlight who you are as a person. In addition, we're going to be talking about your activities, the ways you've been engaged in the community, as well as any academic honors that you have received. With that, when we talk about holistic review, all of those things are factored into the application process. For students that are admitted to Northwestern, about 60% of our students are receiving financial aid. For the past couple of years, there's been over $190 million set aside in financial aid. One of the things that I love about Northwestern is that all of our financial aid packages are loan free. So we do have a commitment to meeting 100% of your demonstrated need, and all of the financial aid packages that we do provide are all provided without loans. So we really are using our financial resources to really help enable students that are admitted to the university to be able to come without that extra burden of loans. So it would be need-based grants and need-based scholarships that would be typically provided as part of the financial aid package. If you do have questions about financial aid, or if you're interested in kind of seeing what your financial aid package would look like, all colleges and universities do have something called the net price calculator. And that will give you, you plug in some of your family's financial information, and you'd be able to get an understanding of what your financial aid package could look like at Northwestern. So thank you all for coming. That's a little bit about financial aid and the admissions process. We have some time to answer some questions. One of the questions that we have is, if your school doesn't offer AP or IB honor classes, is that going to be a disadvantage? And the answer is no. What we're really interested in is understanding what sorts of classes are offered at your school. Your school counselor typically will send us something called a school report, which talks about the different classes that are offered, maybe if there's special programs, or if there's no honors or AP classes or IB classes. They also can indicate which are some of the more rigorous classes. So we're not interested in comparing you to a school that has more AP classes or more IB classes. What we're interested in learning is, how did you challenge yourself at your particular high school, knowing that across the globe there are different grading scales, there are different academic offerings. So really interested in seeing, how did you challenge yourself, and what does that look like for your time at that particular high school. Also, with grading, we know that there's many different things that students have for grading. Different high schools have different grading policies. Especially with COVID, there might be some schools who might mark a class as complete or incomplete, or pass or no credit. We're also going to take a lot of time to be able to understand and dig into the information that your school provides to make sure that we have the best information to be able to represent your academic record within that. There's also a question about how difficult it is to double major and still graduate in 4 years. This is something that is very feasible for students to do. You can double major both in the same, maybe sometimes in the same school, or maybe across the 6 different schools, and still be able to graduate in 4 years. I did mention that dual degree program, and that one typically is 5 years, but there are many students who are able to double major, maybe do a double major and a minor or a certificate, and still be able to graduate within 4 years. Typically that does involve, that just factors in the different courses that you're taking and how those courses might fit the different requirements, that are there across the 6 different schools. Dana, do you want to answer the question about what students are most surprised by when they're on campus, and what elements of Northwestern you feel make it the most, what you feel makes it the most unique when you're on campus, since some of our students aren't going to be able to visit for a little while?
Hi. Sorry, one second. Sorry. I cut out a little bit. Do you mind repeating it? The question?
Sorry, no problem. So what are students most surprised about when they're on campus? What sorts of things by being on campus make Northwestern's campus unique? What would be some of those things that would stand out to you?
Yeah, so one of the things that I was super surprised about is how nice everyone is at Northwestern. And that is something that, everyone probably says about anyone, but a lot of people who I talk to, a lot of people who come to visit Northwestern, and a lot of other students who are in their first year at Northwestern can say the same, that Northwestern students are one of the most like collaborative students that you'll find, especially because everyone at Northwestern is so academically inclined, but also so willing to help. So you never feel like you're competing with other people, or that it's like this cutthroat place where you're kind of clawing your way to the top. So a lot of people at Northwestern are so collaborative, helpful, and anyone, if you're going through a hard time, has like anyone who, if you're going through a hard time, can support you, and kind of like that peer connection that you have with each other, knowing that you're all going through the same or similar kind of experience at Northwestern. That really is something that surprised me about Northwestern. It's something that makes Northwestern unique, because it's not something that you'll find any place. And the size of Northwestern really contributes to that, in that it's big enough that you can meet somebody new every day, but small enough that you can wave to somebody that you see on your way to class that you've met before.
Awesome. So we also had a question about being on campus and being in the town of Evanston. What are some of our favorite dining options? I can go and talk a little bit about La Cocinita and Tapas Barcelona. They're fantastic restaurants. La Cocinita is Venezuelan arepas that's by town. And then the Tapas restaurant is also very, very good. Like I mentioned before, there are many different coffee shops. So if you're in coffee, there are plenty of things to be able to choose from, many different brands, many different chains, along with a lot of local options for you to be able to choose from. It's kind of like a coffee haven, being able to drive up to Evanston. And if I didn't make enough coffee, or if it's one of those days where I need an afternoon pick-me-up, there are plenty of choices to choose from. And that, I think, informs a lot of the culture at Northwestern of like being able to have those spaces and engage with that. There's also tons of pizza, lots of different things. Diana, do you have any favorite local restaurants in Evanston?
Yes, I am very passionate about Northwestern dining and Evanston dining. So first of all, I really appreciate the dining halls. Everyone likes to hate on dining halls, but I really like them. And I miss having somebody make my food for me. And my favorite place in Evanston, everyone write this down. It's called 10Q Chicken. It is the best food in Evanston, and that's all I have to say about that. No, but actually, it is a relatively new restaurant, and it's like Korean fusion type of food. It is really, really fast, and also like delicious. So many options of chicken. And then another one that I'm very passionate about is this. It's like Indian food. It's called Mount Everest, and I have only been there one time. It was so good. So you can find a huge variety of food. You can find Mexican food, like Paul was talking about, Spanish food. You can find Chinese food. You can find Indian food. So you will have no shortage of options of food at Northwestern.
Yeah, we had a question also about transferring between schools, how easy that is. Students have asked questions about, changing your major, but if you are interested in transferring schools, the sooner that you do that, the easier it is. About 30% of our students will actually graduate from a different school than what they started in. Some of the programs, like the music school, if you want to transfer into that particular school, you're still going to need to pass the audition as part of that process. But for the other ones, you would be talking to an advisor in one of those schools to be able to make sure that you're able to transfer and kind of get everything associated with that particular transfer. It can be relatively easy. Like I said, the earlier that you do that, the easier it is. Because most of our students are in the College of Arts and Sciences, and we have the other 5 schools, it typically is easier to transfer from one of the smaller schools into a larger school. But that if you are interested in transferring into a smaller school than the one that you started in, there's still options for that. What's important to know, like Diana talked about, is that you do have those advisors in all the different programs that you're involved in. And the advisors are there to help you not only navigate the classes that you need for your particular major, but also just all the paperwork that you might need to kind of get into a particular program to make sure you're all set to be able to graduate. And those things can be really helpful to have someone else support you, not only inside the classroom, but also to support you during your process of trying to figure out where it is that you actually want to study and what program you feel most connected to. So rest assured that if that's something that you're interested in, that there's people that you can talk to that kind of help walk you through that process. Yeah, so I think with that, that gives us a lot of questions that we've been able to talk through. Let me see if there's any more. Let me see if there's any more things that I can think about for questions. There is a question. Oh, sorry. Let me answer this question. For people that are interested in doing music, but aren't necessarily interested in being a music major, but you still want to stay connected to it, there are many different opportunities. If you go on our website, there's actually a specific website for lists of different ensembles and symphonies that are available for students that are non-music majors to still be involved in that. So if you want to take private lessons, if you want to take a history of music class, there are many different ways for you to be able to still remain committed to that. I think especially because people have been so committed to so many different activities, whether that's athletics, journalism, music, theater, there are opportunities for you, whether or not you are a specific theater major or a journalism major, or you're a D1 athlete. Like Diana was saying, there's 3 different levels of athletics that we offer. There's opportunities for non-journalism majors to still be involved in publications. There's opportunities for non-music majors to be involved. There's opportunities for non-theater majors to also be involved in some of those productions. So it just takes a little bit of understanding what those opportunities are, but rest assured that just because what you do in the classroom is not going to solely define what you do outside the classroom. And we're really interested in creating a space where if there's something that you're interested in doing, whether or not you're pursuing that as your academic focus, there's still going to be ways to be able to engage in that. So that's a really helpful question for us to kind of talk a little bit more about the opportunities at Northwestern. So thank you all so much for coming. We're going to wrap up our time here. Once again, my name is Paul Compton, and I was presenting today with Diana, and we're so glad that you were able to tune in. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email us or to check out the YouTube site for other opportunities. So thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.